What's going on, Browns fans? We have got a very busy show for the people today. Matthew Peterson here from Chat Sports, breaking down the latest Browns news and rumors. So, I walked into work today late because I went to the DMV and I didn't have a piece of paper, and now I have to go back in 3 months. So if you've ever been there before, that was me today. But regardless, I walked in expecting to talk about Baker Mayfield either going to Seattle because of the latest reports that we talked about on last night's video, or could we have a bidding war between the Seahawks and the Panthers? But just before we started filming, an interesting story came out revolving around Deshaun Watson and the latest turn on that story. So we're going to start today's video off by looking at that. Then we'll get to the Baker Mayfield segment of the show, and we're going to wrap things up. I couldn't even fit it in the headline about a potential reunion between Joe Hayden and the Browns, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But first, Josina Anderson tweeted this out right before we started filming. I thought, you know what, let's just stop, let's put it in the video, and let's move on from there. But here's what she said. I'm told there have been recent attempts by the NFL, the NFLPA, and Deshaun Watson's advisors to negotiate a disciplined settlement, so now potential 2 settlements. However, talks involving a potential number of games missed fell apart. Not being on the same page as of now, process moves forward per league sources. She's referring to at the very end the process of arbitration and going to sue Robinson and yada, 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 yada. My takeaway from this is I'm guessing the NFL is pushing for at least a year suspension. They don't want Deshaun Watson on the field in 2022. Just from a PR and optics standpoint, after seeing what MLB did to Trevor Bauer, they just don't want to get the blowback, okay? This is not an admission of guilt or anything like that. It is just business. It is just PR and optics. I'm guessing on the other side, you have Deshaun Watson's camp in the NFLPA who are pushing for him to play in 2022, right? Watson missed all of last season. Probably doesn't want to go 2 straight seasons without ever playing football. So I think that's where it's probably the line in the sand has been drawn about whether or not they can find a way, or whether or not Watson's camp can find a way to negotiate a settlement where he gets to play in 2022. And if not, they leave it up to arbitration and Sue Robinson, and it may still end into the lap of Roger Goodell. So I also wonder, could the NFL be afraid of a lawsuit, right? If you're the NFL, why are you engaging in settlement talks? You know, from your point of view, why you have a lot of leverage, right? You would think that right now the ball is in Watson's camp's side of things to get some momentum going to try and bring down a potential suspension. So I wonder if the NFL is afraid of Deshaun Watson and his camp and the NFLPA suing the league, because what if this? Ready? Watson gets suspended for a full season despite having no criminal charges filed against him, not being found guilty, and just having some settlements outside of court because, I mean, we've seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, you should watch the movie. Good movie with Jamie Foxx, law-abiding citizen. It's not about what you know. It's about what you can prove. And so if Watson believes, hey, settlement is the best route here, I'm not saying I'm guilty, but that's, maybe what he's going through in his mind right now. I could see that being kind of the course of action as to why the NFL maybe wants to settle with Watson, because they don't want to have a lawsuit and have a judge come down and say, all right, we're just going to freeze this, and until we can resolve it, Watson, you can play week 1, and the Browns will be pretty happy with that decision. But let me ask this question before we dive into the Baker aspect of this. Do you like Roger Goodell? I think it used to be a pretty fun thing to hop on the bandwagon of no, he's a clown, right? Team Portnoy, Team Barstool forever. But he's made the NFL a lot of money, and he's done a lot of great things for the league. But I still put C for clown because that's what's fun to do. So let me know if you like Roger Goodell. All right, next segment on today's show. We're going to revisit this tweet from Josina Anderson. We're not going to read the whole thing, but this is what she tweeted out last night about the Seahawks having high level of interest in getting Mayfield and maybe even extending his contract. Well, if they get Mayfield, peace to them. I don't really care what they do with Mayfield's contract. That's their kind of, that's their monkeys, not my circus. But let's look at the Baker Mayfield side of this, because we have the report from Josina from CBS Sports that the Seahawks are interested in Baker. And we've known for a little bit now that the Panthers were kind of leading the clubhouse for if Baker gets traded, where it could be to. So could we have a bidding war now, right? I mean, we have gone all over the board here. Initially it wouldn't be that difficult to find a trade partner. All of a sudden the Browns didn't want to eat $18.9 million. Then no one wanted Baker. And now maybe two teams want Baker. I mean, could Andrew Berry have all the leverage in this? From having no leverage before, he has secured the leverage in these ongoing trade discussions because he can go to Carolina, who sounds like they were 1 foot in but not all the way in, and go, hey, listen, if you guys want Baker, you better make a better offer because I got Seattle on line too, and they're offering me a 4th-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, whatever it may be. So maybe all of a sudden Andrew Berry has all the leverage in these trade talks. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated not long ago reported that the Browns were willing to eat half of the money. So 18.8, let's round up to 9, right around $8.5 million. Yeah, somewhere in that range, right? $9 million-ish, 9.5, kind of in that ballpark. So it'll be interesting to see when a trade happens, what the finances look like here. But I also have this thought. This is probably my overarching thought across all of this. Did OTAs and minicamp for Carolina and Seattle maybe not go as pretty as Fritter and Schneider thought they might go, right? Did Drew Lock and Sam Darnold? I mean, I know it's just minicamp. It's not padded practices, which you'd think actually would maybe, allow quarterbacks to look a little better than they really would in real 11-on-11 practice. But maybe they just did not follow the script well, and these two GMs in Seattle and Carolina are panicking a little bit, going, fuck, if Locke and Darnold looked bad when there wasn't even defense on the field, training camp's going to be a nightmare. So we'll look at some potential trades in just a second. I got some blockbuster trades we're going to have some fun with here. Just keep it easy in the comments section. It's late June, all right? Let's have some fun with it. But my question for you guys before we check out any trades, do you care if Baker gets traded to? Can we have an honest discussion right now, right, between us? Is this something we really care about, or is it just get him out the building? Because I know this last couple of months, a lot of people's mindset on Baker has changed, but let's not forget. I mean, he was a part of a team that beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs at Heinz Field. And for that, I will forever be grateful for what he did for the Browns, because I think Baker had to walk so Deshaun Watson could run in Cleveland. So let me know why for yes or N for no. All right, like I said, let's have some fun with these trades. First off, it's June 23rd. Happy NBA draft to everyone. We already know the 3 first picks, thanks to Woj. I've got to imagine ESPN was pissed when their lead NBA analyst just leaked the top 3 picks so no one has to tune into the draft till pick 4. But regardless, we're going to have some fun with these trades here. We're going to put some players going back and forth. We're going to get creative and not just do Baker for a 3rd, because that's not very exciting. All right, so just bear with me here. First trade idea, Baker to Seattle for Poona Ford, a very up-and-coming defensive tackle, an undrafted free agent, and he has started 2 straight seasons for the Browns, for the Seahawks. A 3rd-round pick coming back to Cleveland for Baker, Richard LeCounte, right, the 5th-round pick from Georgia last year. He was awesome in the preseason, had a pick or two, and then a 2023 5th-round pick. Now, I tossed in LeCounte just because I always feel like Seattle's secondary sucks. So they can never have too much depth at a safety or a corner position. So why don't we toss in a 5th-round pick? You get a 5th back because Cleveland trades a 5th away, because if you're going to get Poona Ford, starting defensive tackle, you're going to have to spend a little money. Baker can't carry all the weight to try and bring nothing back for Seattle, nothing to Seattle. So that's the trade I've got outlined right there for Cleveland to Seattle. Let's break it down a little bit more. We showed these stats just yesterday on yesterday's show, but in case you missed it, Baker versus Drew Lock in their career, it's not a competition, right? Can we all just admit this? Baker's a better quarterback than Drew Lock, okay? He's better in basically every form possible, and that's fine, right? Is he so much better that Seattle wants to trade a pick away and take on a near $19 million contract? Maybe, maybe not, right? That might be a different discussion. Now, you don't like Drew Lock. Fine. Maybe you think Geno Smith is going to win the job in Seattle. This is even worse. Geno Smith is not a starting quarterback, and that's okay. The Jets learned that, and after 2-3 years where their starting quarterback, first off, got punched in the face, and remember that when the Jets had that defensive tackle punch him, and then he got released, goes to the Bills, follows Rex Ryan, and then he was a captain for the Jets-Bills game. But regardless, again, Geno, last year as a backup, was okay. As a backup. That's not a movie you want to see 17 times. It's not going to be a pretty sight. So here's why I picked Poona Ford, by the way. If you don't know him, that's fine. Maybe you don't watch, Seattle football. But he has been awesome. You should watch him because he has done a lot of great things, and he has been a little bit of an unsung hero as a defensive tackle. I know, 4 sacks over the last 2 seasons. That's not jumping off the page. But what he does is he does his job. He's a nose tackle who's going to eat up your guard and your center and free up a linebacker to get into the backfield and make a play on the quarterback or the running back. He's going to be in the trenches. He'll be doing the dirty work that does not reflect on the stat sheet, but it does when the team has OW in the win column. The Seahawks already made one bad trade this offseason. I'll never really understand. I don't think anyone will really know what happened between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks front office to have either him force his way out and be like, listen, I want out, or if the Seahawks were like, hey, this relationship has run its course. But it never really made a ton of sense to me why that trade ever happened. So here is my trade idea one last time. Let me know how you feel about it. Poona Ford, a 3rd-round pick going to Cleveland for Baker, Richard LeCount, because you can never have enough secondary help in Seattle when you have to play Kyler Murray, who knows what Trey Lance will look like, and Matthew Stafford 6 times a year. Plus a 5th-rounder just because you're losing Poona Ford, so toss an extra pick that way. So let me know which team you think wins that trade down below. Next up, we're going to check out my Panthers trade idea because after the report came out that Seattle has a high level of interest in Baker, what if Carolina gets a little antsy? And they're like, you know what? We want Baker in here before training camp so he doesn't join us mid-August, and we got to throw the playbook at him, and hopefully he's ready to roll by week 1. But first, if you are looking for a Browns YouTube coverage, they'll have nonstop off-season coverage. And by nonstop, I mean daily videos. Even in the dog days of June and July, this is the channel for you. We are closing in on 10,000 subs, so I appreciate every one of you that have already subscribed. But if you haven't yet, make sure you do so today. On to my Panthers trade idea. The Browns get Robbie Anderson and a 4th-round pick, not as good as a 3rd, like what you got when you got Poona Ford as well. And the Panthers just get Baker Mayfield. I probably should include like a 7th-round pick because Robbie Anderson will have a bit of a bad contract for Carolina to move on from, but for now, we'll just leave that out. But listen, we go back to the same conversation we had regarding Drew Lock and Geno Smith. There is no competition here. Baker is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold, right? 1st-round pick in 2018 versus 3rd-round pick in 3rd overall pick in 2018. Number 1 versus number 3, and Baker wins in a landslide. Now, Robbie Anderson, on the other hand, is an interesting chess piece in this game here because he was great for the Panthers in year 1 after signing in free agency from the Jets, north of 1,000 yards, but just 3 touchdowns, but he's been a reliable guy for them. Last year, basically everything got cut in half, and maybe they'd like to have Robbie Anderson once they get Baker Mayfield, but after what Robbie Anderson said about getting Baker Mayfield and knowing Baker, that won't be an easy relationship to amend. We'll have more on this in just a moment, but if you are looking for another way to take in your Browns content on the web, well, you can check us out over at Rumble, where Rumble provides you with uncensored content. The link is in the comments and the description, rumble.com/Browns Report. Show us some love, show us some support over on Rumble today. Now, the interesting wrinkle with the Robbie Anderson idea of including him in a trade, he does not have a very friendly contract to trade. I mean, do the Panthers really want to take on basically $20 million to $19.5 million of dead cap hit over the next 2 seasons with very little savings? Probably not. But if they don't have to give up that good of a pick to get Baker, they might view that as the cost of doing business. So we looked at 2 trades today. Which trade do you think was the better trade? The Seahawks trade or the Panthers trade? I'm kind of leaning the Seahawks trade because you get Poona Ford. He's going to help out. He'll have a bigger impact on the defensive line than I think Robbie Anderson would at the wide receiver position. Final story on today's show. An interesting little reading between the lines here as Joe Hayden put this on his Instagram story last night on Wednesday, and Browns Twitter just ran with it thinking, is Joe Hayden returning to the land? So we had some maybe hints of this happening ever since it was clear that him and the Steelers were not going to reunite after his contract wrapped up back, this year. Now, he played for the Browns, of course, from 2010 to 2016, in case you don't remember, and he's been with the dark side ever since. And he had some great years with Pittsburgh. That was a move, even in the moment, I thought, I don't like this. I don't like the idea of Joe Hayden leaving, and I really don't like him going to Pittsburgh, and he showed why, because 7 interceptions in the 2018 to 2019, and just 2 in the previous 2 seasons. So a bit of a drop-off as, Father Time has caught up to him, but it would be kind of fun to have Joe Hayden back to Cleveland, right? So if you want Joe back on the Browns, hit that thumbs up icon. Who knows? Maybe he's name searching right now, and he's going to go, oh, the dog pound wants me back? Yeah, I'll come back and I'll sign a, maybe just a one-day contract. Although, is he really one-day contract material? I don't really think so. But I would love to have Joe Hayden back. Just like talking about him in the middle of June, hell yeah, I would take Hayden back because at least bring him into if we're going down this route here of should the Browns bring back Joe Hayden, well, if you are arguing for it, at least see what he can do in training camp. Give him no guarantees. If he doesn't look like he's in shape, you move on from him. But the Browns are pretty loaded at corner, right? This is not a position of need. In fact, I would argue it's probably the least position of need, right? You just drafted you just drafted Martin Emerson, who was your first draft selection in this past draft. Plus, you extended Denzel Ward. You drafted Greedy Williams in round 2 a couple of years back. You drafted Greg Newsome in the first round last year. I like what I saw of A.J. Green, so I don't really think this is probably going to happen, but it's fun to talk about a little bit. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. I really appreciate everyone that tuned into the show. And also, NBA draft, just a couple hours away. If you are looking for a spot to watch the draft and not have Taco Bell ads run when a future MVP is being selected, join us here at Chat Sports, youtube.com/ChatSportsTV for the #1 free draft coverage stream. We'll see you guys later here on the Cleveland Browns Report.